My grandfather, Petrus Mahler, which is how Mulley is pronounced in Flemish, was born in 1885 in Roseslare, Belgium. And he was born to a family. His father's name was Ludovicus Mahler, and his mother's name was Aldefina Leruth. And they had a factory that they had attached to their house. Then their business was they bleached flax to make linen, because this is in the Flanders area of Belgium, which is the upper part, which is the Dutch-speaking, and I think the lower is called Walloon or something like that, and that's the French-speaking. So anyway, the area that they were from was well known for the linens that they produced, and the families, I think both families, Leruth and Mulley, were in that business, because so not only did they do business together, they married together, it sounds like. Anyway, so Petrus was born 1885. I'm assuming he probably as a kid worked in this factory, but just like many, immigrants, looked like there was opportunity in America, and plus he had there were 14 other mouths to feed. So he came to America on the ship, the Kroonland, and sailed from Antwerp on August 6th, 1910. And it was actually, I think, a 10-day trip. He arrived in New York Harbor on August the 16th, 1910. And I guess I don't have the evidence exactly, but he was probably processed through Ellis Island. And on the manifest, it showed him as being a single white male, unmarried, and his description as his occupation was laborer. But I believe he had tool and die skills like many Europeans had, because in subsequent documents it shows him as being a machinist. He worked for the REO Motor Company and other places, and I'm sure he was, wrenching on things. And actually in 2000, there was a reunion of Mulley's in Roseslare, and I went to Europe for the first and only time, and that was an amazing experience. But one of the people I met his name was Edgar, and Edgar was probably like a third or fourth cousin of my father's. And one of the questions, we had a great conversation, but one of the questions he asked me was, why did Petrus come to the United States? And I don't have anything in writing to say one way or the other, but as I explained, he had a lot of, like many many families with a lot of kids, and he probably felt like, he wasn't going to have any opportunity there, and America was the land of opportunity. And he had, I believe, two brothers that had already, one at least, but maybe two brothers that had come to the United States. And so he, with, good health apparently and skills, decided that that's why he came to this country. And the experience is just amazing to us, because you think about, he was probably, his mom probably didn't even go with him to Antwerp to get on the boat. He said, "Goodbye, Mom." I'm knowing that, and I don't know for sure if he ever did go back to Belgium or ever see his mother alive again, but that's just how things worked back then. And that's really something to stop and think about, because, we scab our knee and we have a big issue about it. And these people were going through all kinds of stuff that we can't even imagine. So anyway, he arrived here in 1910. He went to Chicago, I'm pretty sure, because that on a manifest says that was his destination, or where he had intended to go after he got off the boat. And I had a brother there, I believe he had a brother Herbert and a brother Joseph I believe those are the two that are in the States. He came with, there was one other Mulley that I saw on the manifest, Henry, and I didn't see that in the name of, that wasn't his brother. I don't think, it might have been his cousin. And I don't know for sure. I just, that was the information that I had to work with. From 1910 to 1913, I'm not sure what was going on. I don't have any documents or anything, but I assume that he arrived in Chicago, just trying to figure out, which end is up for a little while. And then worked his way up into Michigan, into the Jackson Mason area. Because in 1915, he married Blanche Huffine. and Blanche was 18 years old, and Petrus was 29 years old. So there's a really tantalizing, maybe never discovered story about how that happened and why. But at that time, he was living on 222 Barnes Avenue. I have their actual marriage certificate or license, and yeah, he was working. I believe he was working at the REO Motor Company, and that's he worked for REO. He worked for Wythe Labs in Mason, which originally started. They eventually became like the large baby food manufacturer, and so he worked for them. I know he was there in 1921 because I have a company newspaper that has a picture, a company newspaper from 1945 that shows a history section, and there's a picture of a group of workers, and Petrus is in it. I mean, geez, I had so much luck to find stuff on this guy.